Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. I wasn't going to film this, but I thought you might find it interesting anyway. DELL XPS again in bits. Power supply there that fixed my problems with the start-stop, the cold start problem. Well, to a degree. It's not doing the spin up, spin down, spin up, spin down. So the power supply was just a dry joint. No concerns there. But there's still some issues where for the first 10 minutes you can get weird things going on, memory control errors, all sorts of weird things. And I put that down to the caps on the board. Now, I got a bit lazy, because what I didn't want to do was to take this to pieces and spend ages, dismantling it all, to take the board out, to then measure up all of the different caps. And there's quite a few caps on here, order them all in, reassemble it again, order the caps, wait for the caps to come in, dismantle it again, take the board out, just put the cap, rinse, repeat, that whole thing. What I wanted really was a fully functioning, working, preferably brand new board that I could just bung in here, and I was going to keep the old one, replace all the caps on it and keep it as a spare, because it's a BTX board this, I'm not going to get a spare board in future years to come unless I buy a second hand one or something for this, and there's no upgrade path or anything really with this machine. So anyway, contacted DELL, and DELL in infinite wisdom pissed me around for a few days. I kept ringing up and they couldn't take me order, they were too busy to take me order and all this sort of stuff. I'll ring you back on Monday, he said. So eventually, and he quoted me £56 for a board, and I thought, bloody hell, that's good value, I'm definitely going to get one of these. Right from the offset, I said, I would like to buy a brand new board, and it was like, yeah, £56. So finally, managed to get hold of a board. After a bit of rigmarole, actually, there was another guy I spoke to who was like, oh, it's £220. And I'm like, 220 quid? You've got to be shitting me. It wouldn't have been that new. This machine's 7 years old. It's like, oh no, these things go up in value. So I was getting quite annoyed with it. And anyway, I got back through to the other guy who was helpful. I think it's called Sanjay. And he was like, yeah, no, it's 56 quid. He said the other guy's made a mistake, quoted you for a laptop board. So God only knows how that happened. But anyway, I had this whole trauma of 2 or 3 days of messing around trying to get hold of a board. Finally got one. I was told it would be several days to get here. It turned up next day. So I got the board. That's actually the new board. And it turns out, right towards the end of the call, Mr. Step here, you've got to return the old board. So I haven't actually bought a new board. I've paid for a repair, and this whole process with DELL has really pissed me off. I would recommend, if you're going to go and buy an off-the-shelf PC, do not buy a DELL at all, because the customer service is absolutely shit. When I first got this machine, incidentally, graphics card failed within an hour. Paid £2.5 for it. An hour later, wouldn't power on, beeping, all sorts of things, diagnostic lights on the front. Spent an hour on the phone to DELL, take one of the cards out, took one of the cards out, lo and behold, it booted up, so they shipped me one in the post, and I was fuming. I was like, well, it doesn't fill me full of confidence, spend £2.5 on a machine, and an hour in, I'm replacing graphics cards on it already. What's next? End of the week, hard drive fail, a week later, power supply. Well, anyway, long story short, as you say, it has lasted me 7 years, and I do think it's a cap issue, and I could have sorted this myself. I just feel like I've been conned by DELL, because now, like I say, I'm having to be forced to quickly, this evening, swap my board over. The other thing is, I'll point out here, it's not exactly the same revision. The board they sent me, it looks like a new one, and you can see that there, 723D, whereas the board I had is a 611C. Now, I'm expecting, all hell might break loose when I get this in here, because if this isn't an NVIDIA, an Enforce 680i or greater, like I say, problems. I'm not even sure how I'm going to get on with the RAID and stuff on this either. But I'm really annoyed at DELL, because when you ring them and you ask them for a new part, they will not sell you a new part. They will sell you an old repaired part, ship it out to you, and if you're lucky, they'll tell you on the phone that you need to resend the old bit in the box they ship out the new bit in. And on the back of this box, it does very clearly state you must send back the old board, or you will be billed additional fees, etc. I can only imagine a board like this, they'll probably charge me a couple of £100 at least for it. I'm tempted to keep the board actually, and if they bill me, tough shit, because I actually want a spare board. So we'll see what happens. I'll ring them up and say how much to keep this board, and see what price they quote me. I'll report back on it. If it's a ridiculous figure, obviously I'll just post it back, but I'm really annoyed at DELL. So I'll reassemble this now, see how I get on. But the other difference, I guess, while I'm here as well, just point out, this has got a fan on the chipset. I don't know, it's the North Bridge, South Bridge, I haven't got a clue. It's nearest the CPU, so I honestly don't know. I always get those things mixed up. It's been not long since I've done anything with PCs. So yeah, just connect to the one of the spare. It's a good job I've got a spare. I forgot what those are called. Those bloody ISO type connectors, or whatever they are. yeah, and it's got an additional fan, so it's interesting they've done that as a revision. Everything else looks the same. It's got all the same, well, most everything. I can't really see any differences. All the same caps in the same places, same number of slots, same number of connectors. Obviously I've just swapped my CPU over, got some fresh heatsink. They did provide that actually. You can see that there, little tube of a little syringe of thermal paste and an alcohol swab and a driver seat CD as well. Of all things, it's a bit odd for them to provide that. I didn't expect that, but yeah, I'm guessing the battery must have just been freshly put in here. No idea. I mean, I've just put a brand new one in mine, so I guess I might just check that now actually with the meter. Yeah, so fingers crossed this is going to sort my problems out. It should do. There's very little in the machine that could continue to cause the problems we're seeing, really, because it's got, you know, the power supply is definitely all right. I've had that on the scope and stuff. Nothing wrong there. It's got to be the caps, but you know, if you look at this old board here, you know, the caps look all right. There's no signs of leakage anywhere. There's no doming on any of the caps. Not that I can see anyway. They look pretty good to me. The board looks in very good condition, apart from the odd particle of dust. It's hard to tell. Sometimes with these surface mount ones, these ones with the flat tops like this, they bulge from the bottom. So yeah, I'm not really seeing any signs of that. But you know, the other possibility is, of course, one of these, one of the main chips on here. I don't know whether the BGA. They could be. Can't really see underneath that heatsink. It could well be some dry joints under those, and that may well be why this was added as a revision. Honestly, I don't know. So I'll reassemble it now anyway. Right, well, the machine's back together now. It's took about, I would say, an hour and a half in total, maybe an hour and 50 minutes, like very close to 2 hours. But all done, yeah. So I'm going to speak to DELL to see how much one of these, but to see if I can keep this board, pay the additional cost, just to see, you know, what ridiculous price they quote me. I'll probably end up sending it back, I think. But just looking at the caps here, whilst they don't look swollen, these are the types of caps where you're probably not going to be able to see, but I'll see if I can zoom in. It's going to be hard to hold this and film at the same time. Let's see if I can get really close in without it blurring. Let's try and move the camera around a bit here. Can you see underneath the cap? Can you see? It's like the underneath of the package has come out. The rubber, you know, the actual rubber or whatever it is under the legs. Just on that, the black one there with the gold stripe, you can just about see it. If you look at the base, it looks black at the base, and it's the same on that particular make. Let's see if I can work out what make those are. 680 microfarad. Is it Nichicon? I think they look like Nichicon. I don't know. Can you see that? See if I can just get a bit of a better focus. Yeah, I can't really tell. My eyesight's not that great, and that zoom's not brilliant from here. But yeah, I'm convinced that's what it is. I would suggest all these Nichicon ones. Certainly those two. Sorry, those two, but you know, some of these others as well. Probably need replacing, these around here. And potentially, you know, these are the ones as well. I'm not sure what manufacturer these are, but they're probably going to need replacing as well. There are quite a few caps on it, you know, and this was the reason I approached it this way, really. You know, got a bit lazy, because I use, you know, I need this machine, I use it a lot. And the idea of it, you know, me having to take it to pieces like this for 2 or 3 hours, whilst I go around all of the caps and make a note of all of the positions on the board and sizes, voltages, and it's physical sizes as well. You know, things like this you just can't take for granted. The height of those is very important, because obviously the heatsink makes onto there, and you know, the fitting protrudes a bit. If you don't get it quite right, you're going to have a major problem there where it doesn't fit, and you put pressure on the board, you damage it, etc. Or your heatsink, you know, doesn't fit on your CPU. So yeah, the physical dimensions, particularly around this area here, are mega critical. So you know, I could have easily done this. It's not, you know, there are quite a large volume of these smaller ones. I suspect probably they're all right. It's going to be those, and it's going to be these Nichicon ones, which I've already seen the evidence of underneath bulging. Whilst some of these ones here actually do look okay from an angle, you know, from trying to the bit you can see of the underneath, they don't look like the what's happened to those two there. Be interested to see what power lines and things those are on. Could be on the 12 volt or something, no idea. Yeah, so there's a couple here. But you know, the problems I was getting with this was, like, say, you know, for the first 15 minutes you'd have to leave at the BIOS screen, or you would get corruptions to the hard disk. You know, it would reboot, reset itself. You get memory controller failures, DRAM failures, graphics problems, all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. But there were two elements to this. Let's say the first one was the power supply was also in a state where it was switching off, switching on, switching off, switching on for the first few minutes, and that was that dry joint I showed earlier on. Managed to get hold of a spare power supply for this. I thought that would be a good idea, so I've got one of those. It only cost me 36 quid, so I'm pleased about that, and it's good as new. So I do have a spare power supply. I'm still I will post on the comments on this how much these boards are. This has actually cost me 56 quid in order, and that included shipping and VAT and everything. Just 56 quid for them to send me a board, you know, and swap it out, and I said just send it back. I'd have to even pay the courier. The UPS are going to turn up to collect this box tomorrow, presumably. That's what it says on the back of it anyway, at least. So all in all, yeah, it's a bit more expensive than I could have done this for myself. I mean, how much would the capacitors be on here? 20, 30 quid, 40 quid most. I mean, there are a fair few, so, you know, I don't know, 20 or 30 quid I would think, to get good quality caps for just for the volume that's on here and all the different sizes and things. I'd probably have a load of spares left over. I'd probably end up having to buy packs of 10 or something, or 20 or something. So inevitably it would be about 30 or 40 quid, I think, for the caps that are required for this. And again, the complexities of the sizing and the time involved for me to then remove all of these caps, replace all the caps, you know, and all that sort of rigmarole as well. All in all, it was actually worth it. But I do despise DELL for the fact that they led me down the garden path with this, you know. From the minute you call up and you say, I would like to purchase a spare part, they'll take your money, you know, take all the billing, get right to the end of the call, and then just as you're about to hang up, what happened with this is, you know, oh, by the way, don't forget to send your old board back. And I'm like, what the fuck, you know, why? I've just purchased a board, why am I sending my old one back? But it does they do clearly say, even though it doesn't on your invoice and doesn't anywhere on any of the material they send you, your billing and all the rest of it, there's nothing anywhere that says you must return the board, but it does say on the invoice, repair. So it's very misleading. So just watch out for that if you're using DELL for any spares. I've never heard of that in my life, to be honest, that they could do that, you know, under the Consumer Trading Act or whatever it is. I don't think that'd be allowed. I'm sure that they can't get away with it, but I do suspect that if I don't send this back, I'll start to notice quite a large amount of cash taken off my credit card, which I won't be happy about. So anyway, I'll let you know. I'll update the description. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this interesting, and I'll see you soon.